Hello, everyone, and welcome into the TnT podcast. I'm your host, Ted.
And I'm Tim.
And today, this will be our first episode of the 2020 election coverage, as we'll be going over Joe Biden's speech from the Democratic National Convention, where he accepts the Democratic nomination to become president.
Yes, sir. What was it, last night?
Last night, yeah.
Last night, yeah. So we watched it just before, so it'd be fresh for the good old pod here. So yeah, it was only, was it 24 minutes?
Yeah, 24, 25 minutes.
Because I saw something on Twitter that it was actually the shortest acceptance speech since, was it 1984, I think?
Oh, wow.
So even Hillary Clinton's was just under an hour in 2016. I think Obama's... It doesn't matter that much, but yeah. It was the shortest speech in recent 30 years, but I thought it was a very good speech overall. He made a lot of good points, a lot of promises. And obviously, promises mean nothing.
Yeah.
If you really come down to it.
Promises.
Exactly. Promises themselves mean nothing. If he acts on them, that's where it will mean something.
Yes.
So what's your thoughts?
My thoughts on it, I thought it, like you said, I thought it was a great speech. He pretty much brought it to the point. Like you said, it was a very short speech, but it was very to the point.
To the point, said what he wanted to do when he first, gets elected, sworn in. He brought up, I'm sorry, I kind of just...
No, go for it.
Went right over
you.
Go
for it.
The basis of his speech was unity.
Yes, it was a lot about togetherness and just trying to unify the country because, he was talking about how Trump has divided us and how he's like, I want to bring us together and not divide us.
Yeah. And I forget the exact line, but I think he said it, like twice, that he wanted to raise us from the darkness.
To the light.
Yeah, into the light. Because it's a fact that Donald Trump, some of his supporters are not the best. He brought out a lot of the hate groups, including the KKK,
the neo-Nazis,
yes,
stuff like that.
White supremacists. He brought out a lot of those people who were in support of him after the Charlottesville, which Biden actually...
he did pull up.
Yeah, he brought up in the speech saying that Trump called them, very nice people on both sides. No.
Yeah, which he was like, this is where... Because then he was like, yeah, this is where I need to run. That's where he was like, yeah, I got to do it.
That's he said in his speech that right there was his call to action. When Trump called these people, they're very nice people on both sides.
And those events, for people that know and have seen like videos and stuff, it was pretty brutal.
It was not pretty.
And not at one bit, because it was so, like, it looked like a civil war going on down there.
Yep. And the president did nothing.
Just let the local officials just let it do that, and they couldn't even really do much about it.
Yeah, but back to Joe Biden. Like we said, he brought together a lot of unity. That's what the main point that he kept driving home was unity.
Yeah.
Saying how, with the pandemic, how we were failed. And that you look at any other country in the world, how much better they are than we are right now.
Yeah, I mean...
We lead the world in cases, deaths, economic, everything.
Yeah, the GDP was like negative 32%. It was really, really low.
Yep.
And what I was going to say, too, is, Brazil's not too far behind because, they're not too far behind in cases because they reached over 1 million. I know we're way ahead of them.
Or 5 times that.
Yeah, I know. But I'm saying, like, they're like another country that's still, that's going through it too. But, he promised with the thing with coronavirus is that it's going to be tough for him if he's going to try to really mandate, because I know he said he was going to mandate the mask thing.
Which I think is a good idea, but could definitely come through some legal challenges, of course.
Yes, it's going to spark some controversy, which who knows if that's going to go through. It's going to be tough, but it's gotta see what they rule about it.
Rule about it, what do you mean?
Like, like decide whether or not it's going to go through or not.
Oh. I was like, who be ruling, though?
No one be ruling.
No one be ruling. Nobody be ruling, man. Nobody be ruling.
No.
But yeah, another thing he brought was, which I think was really smart, he brought up loss. With the coronavirus, we're at all these deaths, so most people have been touched in some way. And, he brought up his son, Bo, who unfortunately passed away of, I believe he had cancer. He brought up, getting in touch with each individual American. You even, while we were watching, you said that you're like, oh my God, he's getting teary-eyed.
Yeah.
So I thought throughout the whole speech, he was sincere completely.
Yeah. Like when, at the one point I saw his eyes could start to get a little like glassy-eyed, you know what I'm saying? Where it looked like tears were about to flow out. And I was like, wow.
And when he named his son towards the end, he started to get a little shaky.
Yeah. He had to pull it together somehow, some way, but he pulled through, which was good for him, But that's tough to bring up something like that. That's emotional. I mean, his speech was pretty emotional.
It was,
because one of the questions was, "Are you guys like ready for this or what?" Like like something like that. Just like, do you guys want this? You guys want 4 more years of this? It's like what way? It was an interesting way to put an end to his speech, for sure.
Yeah, because one thing, which was the first thing that I noticed, he didn't mention Donald Trump by name once.
No, he referred to him as
the current president or the person residing in the White House.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't name President Trump once.
No.
Not once.
And
whereas I saw some online, 2016, Hillary Clinton said his name 22 times in her speech. He didn't say it once. And I'm sure in Trump's speech at the Republican National Convention, I'm sure he will name Biden at least once.
More, I think he'll probably... let's play, let's have a little ballpark. Let's see how many times he mentions in some nickname or just the name in general.
I'm going to say 11.
I'm going to say 20.
20?
Yeah.
Dang.
So
we'll keep tabs on that.
Yeah. 11, 20, we'll see what happens.
Whoever gets closer without going over, I don't know, my brain broke.
His brain broke, but he was trying to think of something that...
Buys food.
Okay, that's fine. Fine by me. So we'll see what happens, because he's very nickname oriented. So we'll see how it goes. But back to Biden's speech, it's a couple other points I saw. Were about the job loss, and because
he was just talking about how he wants to bring so many more jobs to America.
Yeah.
Saying, all these technological improvements that'll be coming over time, he wants all that stuff made in America. He even said about, more about the pandemic, that he doesn't want us to be reliant on all these other countries to keep our people safe.
Yeah.
He was he said it, that he wants all this stuff made in America for America.
Yeah.
Which I thought was a great point. Which, again, if he's elected, he has to deliver on it.
Yeah.
So that's the thing with these speeches, is that you have to be prepared to act on them.
Yeah.
And Trump, he has delivered on a few of his campaign promises, not all, which, I mean, with any candidate, you can't expect them to
do all of them.
Do everything.
Yeah.
Because in 4 short years, not much you can really accomplish.
Right.
Especially now when we're still in a pandemic, which it will obviously be number 1 on his list to try and get under control.
Which he did go over first hand when they first began the speech. Excuse me. They also put on unemployment numbers and also touched on small businesses, where he was like 1 in 6, I believe.
Yeah, 1 in 6.
Small businesses will be, closed for good. Like those, I think you call them like mom and dad business.
Mom and pop shops.
Mom and pop shops.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
he brought up, what was it? He said 50 million people filed for unemployment.
Yeah, which if you think about that, 50 million people out of like
Was that a
300
sixth?
Yeah, like
Sixth of the country?
Yeah, 12% of the population. Because there's, I think, roughly 330 million Americans, something like that.
Somewhere
So
around there. I just rounded it 300 million just to get something easy.
Yeah. That's about almost like 10%, 10 to 12%. You're right. That's in that ballpark.
Of the whole country.
Yeah.
Was unemployed.
Yeah. And that's the thing. And he was focusing on how Trump was, going on about like, the money for the 1% and stuff like that, where he wanted to, Biden wanted to spread the wealth, you know what I'm saying? So like it goes towards the workers. And you shook your head at the one point where he said the essential workers
deserve to be paid.
Yeah.
I was like, yes, I definitely agree with that. I deserve to be paid more.
So yeah, which you were pumping your fist onto that one.
Ted was commenting through the whole thing. I didn't say a word. Yeah. Until he said that, I put my fist in the air like, yes.
Yeah, he was.
Then Ted was like, "Oh, that's a good point. Oh, that's a good point."
Yeah.
I was gonna say something there, and I'm like, I'm just gonna let him do it.
Yeah. And it was just like saying like, okay, keep that in mind for the pod and stuff like that. So
yeah, but he did say that, basically that Trump has only given tax breaks to the wealthy top 1%.
Mm-hmm.
And even said that some businesses don't even pay taxes.
Yes.
Whereas
he did bring that up.
Common people like you and me
get heavily
pay up the wazoo.
Yeah.
Especially then we go to people who own houses, property tax, everything.
Yeah.
Pay so much, and then the top 1%
get paid. They
either have to pay the same or less.
Yeah.
Which, exactly we said, they need to pay their fair share.
Yeah.
Which is very true.
Yeah.
It's very, very true.
Yeah. And that was a great point that you made, and, that's just that. And, you can't fight against it because it's a fair point. Because, think about this. I pulled up a stat. It was like the top 1% made like over like 400. I don't know if it was million or $1 billion, but it was like.
Why are you whispering?
But I don't know. I was just expressing the thought. It was like 400. It was like 400 some 30 something million or $1 billion. It was crazy amount of money these guys earned throughout the pandemic. So, just
I'm sure some investors.
Numbers.
I'm sure some investors. Like I was sitting there. I've told this story about when the market crashed back in March. I was sitting in class watching myself lose thousands. I should have put a lot more in. Then I could have made some money from it, but. It's okay.
Yeah. Because that's tough, man. It's like with that, it's like you just.
I made $200 before we podcasted.
Yeah, which was nice.
Thanks, stock market.
Yeah. So, what other points struck out to you in the speech?
See, I completely forgot what we were talking about before I went into the stock market.
No, you're fine. What other points did come out to you that was like, oh wow, that was a really good point?
It was really, like we said, it was a fairly short speech, but I don't know, just that he did talk about actually George Floyd's daughter,
where he said daddy
where
changed the world. Yeah,
that he said that he was there. He said it was a day before
the funeral.
The funeral, yeah, that he knelt down to his daughter, and she looked up at him and said, "Daddy changed the world." I was like, that got me in the feels a little bit. Not gonna lie.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the racial injustice in this company. What? Country. The racial injustice in this country. Wow. Yeah, that's something he said he wants to address. He wants to fix, which I 100% agree with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There is things that need to be changed, and Donald Trump is not that person.
No. It just doesn't.
He is not that person.
No. And he doesn't, it's not like, just doesn't connect with it, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just not like the way that Biden doesn't compare to him. They have a different stance on it. So, for Trump, it'd be a lot harder for him than Biden.
Yeah. But, oh man, I just lost my train of thought.
Also, when he said, the one thing that really got to me was when obviously with the pandemic and how obviously with the mask and saying how, like I know I said this before, but those mom and pop shops. Like think about like for all you listeners out there, think about like if your parents own a small business, you guys have a good 12% chance of a good amount of chance like without going under because of this pandemic.
Because you either can't open or you're getting limited business, stuff like that. It's hard.
Yeah.
On these businesses, it's hard.
Yeah.
That's why I get why, all these governors and even the president, why they want to open up the economy. And, Biden even said he wanted to also. I get why, because you can't keep as big as an economy as this country has, you can't keep it stifled forever.
No, because it can't be stagnant. You can't just stay put. You got to accelerate it.
Like all these big businesses will survive.
Yeah.
Like say if Walmart had to close their doors, they'll survive.
They have
Target, all this.
Those big companies, the corporate companies will survive.
Those will survive no problem. They got big enough bank accounts.
Millions and billions of dollars. Meanwhile, your
Walmart made like $500 billion last year.
That's insane.
That's Walmart.
Yeah. But if you look at the mom and pop shops, they're making there's so much less than that.
Yeah, there's some that do well.
Yeah.
There's others that could maybe break even.
Mm-hmm.
And then to put this on top of it, where it's either they can't open, and they still have to pay all their bills, so they have no money coming in, and all these bills.
So many restrictions too. So which also hurts the business. So it's like you're like SOL, basically.
Yeah.
And it's like you're on your own, and there's really not much to really help you out.
Yeah. The reason we're talking about this is because I think Biden gets that.
Yeah.
Whereas Trump,
Trump's more in favor of the big business. He's more the big business
because that's he's been a businessman.
Yeah.
He grew up basically in a rich family.
Yeah.
Small loan of $1 million.
Yeah.
Whereas Biden even said, he grew up middle class.
Yeah.
So I think he understands what the common people are going through throughout the pandemic. I think he is the best candidate to take it on. Trump has shown us that he doesn't know how, I guess.
There's a part of him I think just doesn't know how to really gather, you know what I'm saying? Like he doesn't have that that trusted voice where you're like, let's gather around and rally behind, because it's tough, because after the stuff that has transpired, it's hard to get behind someone that causes the divide.
That's the president we have, unfortunately. 2016, when it was Clinton versus Trump, I was never for Trump. And then I remember right in my room, I was up till 3, 4 a.m. on election night, and I was like, yep, he won. I remember feeling, of course, not happy, but that just because I didn't think he was going to do a good job doesn't mean I didn't want him to. Just because I don't like the guy, I still want him to succeed. Because if he succeeds, we succeed as a country. So just because I don't like the candidate, just because I don't like the current president, doesn't mean I don't want him to do a good job.
Right.
That's not true at all. I was hoping Trump was going to change my mind. I thought he was going to, maybe he can do some good. He did some good, he did some bad. So we're now 4 years later, 2020. Joe Biden will do a better job as president than Donald Trump. I think is the bottom line. Because he even said Democrat, Republican, American. He said as president, you're not just serving the people who voted for you. You're serving the people who didn't vote for you as well.
Yeah, that's a good point, because he did bring that up, where he's like, the people that didn't vote for me, something along the lines of that, where he was like,
more unity,
Yeah.
which was the major tone of his speech, was just, like I said, straight up unity, which is something I almost said company again, something this country really needs. We need a leader that can bring us together. And unfortunately, Donald Trump is not that leader.
Which brought this up to me when you brought up the George Floyd thing. He was like, the civil rights thing has been as bad as it was in the 60s.
Yeah, that is a good point, actually. I think it was in the beginning of his speech, that we are in like a superstorm right now. Yeah. We have the worst pandemic in 100 years. We have climate change. We have a race movement, the biggest race movement since the 60s.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Was there one more?
You covered climate change. You covered that.
I think that was it.
Yeah, I think that was it.
But it's a great point. Like, this election is like no other. Most other elections are, just basically another year in America. Like,
yeah.
But we have all these issues colliding at once. This election comes down to, which leader do we want to fix these issues? Which leader do we think we can? Can.
This is probably one of the biggest elections, I think, in a very long time.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be interesting to see what happens. And I think a lot of people are going to vote. And I think what it's going to come down to is what is going to happen with the popular vote in the Electoral College.
As we talked a little about that last time.
Yeah.
How, even though a lot of Democratic voters stayed home in 2016, she still won the popular vote, but not in the swing states where it mattered.
Yeah. That's where, the swing states are going to be interesting, because who knows what they're going to do. I think Florida's a swing state, and Ohio. I know those two. I just can't think of the other ones.
Yeah, once it gets closer, so maybe even on election night, we'll live stream it.
Yes.
Live reaction to whoever wins what states, and we got some time for that. But
yes, which that'll be interesting. It'll be fun. So if you guys wanted to watch, definitely can, for sure.
Yep, 100%. But just one last thing I want to say about Biden is, like I said before, he is going to be the one that will best be able to take on these important issues, whereas 4 more years of Donald Trump will put this country down in a dark place.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. It just, who knows? I mean, at this point, who knows? It's just gonna be it's gonna be a crazy next 2 months. It's going to be very interesting to see, which we will cover the debates between the two.
Yep, we'll cover Trump's speech at the Republican National Convention next week. Then debates, just it'll all be tagged with election 2020. But yeah, I mean, I think that's all there is to say.
Yeah, it's just going to be a very interesting couple months.
Yes, it will.
And we'll keep you posted as what we see and our thoughts about what both candidates say, what pros and cons.
And like we said, we're by this episode, you can tell which way we're leaning for this election. But we're still going to bring you the facts of each side.
Yeah.
We're not going to, Joe Biden.
Yeah.
He said this good, and not mention anything. Yeah. Especially when it comes to the debates.
Yeah.
If one side has a good idea, we'll mention it. If the other side has a good idea, we'll mention it.
Yeah.
If I don't agree with something Biden said, I'm going to say it.
Yeah. It's just the thing with mine, I just have a little skeptical about is the handling of the pandemic. How is he going to handle it more differently than Trump? How is that going to fare out? That's the only question right now that I ask.
Well, he said he was going to speed up testing. Yeah. Stuff like that, the national mask mandate.
No, I understand that, but I'm saying, I know you can say it in your speech, but...
That's what we were saying in the beginning.
What are you going to do? Because that's the biggest thing.
It's all in all, this was a very good speech, very powerful.
It was a very emotional speech. Yeah, it was. It's just my
It
question.
comes down to, okay, say we elect you. What now?
Yeah.
What are you going to do to fulfill these promises?
What's your approach going to be? That's my question to him that I would like to see. Obviously, we'll know until he gets elected, of course. But it's just a matter of how will you get it done? What will you do? How, I said how already. When will you do it? How, stuff like that.
Yeah, pretty much you nailed it. So we'll go ahead and end this episode here, guys. Like Ted said, we will be covering the election all the way until the election on November 3rd. Make sure if you are not registered to vote, you register. You check with your local officials, because I know here in New Jersey, every registered voter is automatically getting a mail-in ballot.
Mm-hmm.
So check and see what your state is doing, and make sure you're registered, and make sure you either go out or mail in on November 3rd. Because this is the election where nobody can stay home. Everybody, whichever side you're voting for, you need to go out and vote.
Yeah. I know, well, we have to be home because it'll be mail-in. So, it's going to be tough to go out, unless in other states where they're allowed to go out, but, yeah.
That's what I'm saying, buddy.
Okay. Got you. I got you.
But anyway, make sure you guys follow us on all our social media links. Check out tntpodcast.com. And actually, we started uploading on our YouTube channel, also TNT Podcast. We're putting every episode out on there, one episode every day, up until we get caught up. And then we're going to be starting some exclusive content, as well as we'll be having video versions of the podcast as well. Will solely be there on YouTube. So with that said, again, thank you guys so much for listening. Make sure you register. Make sure you vote on November 3rd. And we will catch you next week.
Peace, guys.